Chapter 15. Along 66, the hamburger stands, Al and Susie's place, Carl's lunch, Joe and Minnie, Will's Eats, Board and Bat Shacks, 2 gasoline pumps in front, a screen door, a long bar, stools, and a footrail. Near the door, 3 slot machines, showing through glass the wealth and nickels 3 bars will bring. And beside them, the nickel phonograph, with records piled up like pies, ready to swing out to the turntable and play dance music. TP-TP-10, Thanks for the Memory, Bing Crosby, Benny Goodman. At one end of the counter, a covered case, candy, cough drops, caffeine sulfate called Sleepless, no-dose, candy, cigarettes, razor blades, aspirin, bromo seltzer, Alka-Seltzer. The walls decorated with posters, bathing girls, blondes with big breasts and slender hips, and waxen faces, while in white bathing suits and holding a bottle of Coca-Cola and smiling. See what you can get with a Coca-Cola. Long bar and salts, peppers, mustard pots, and paper napkins. Beer taps behind the counter, and in back the coffee urns, shining and steaming with glass gauges showing the coffee level. And pies in wire cages, and oranges in pyramids of 4, and little piles of toasties, cornflakes stacked up in designs. The signs on cards picked out with shining mica. Pies like a mother used to make. Credit makes enemies. Let's be friends. Ladies may smoke, but be careful where you lay your butts. Eat here and keep your wife for a pet. IITYWYBAD. Down at one end, the cooking plates, pots of stew, potatoes, pot roast, roast beef, gray roast pork waiting to be sliced. Minnie or Susie or May, middle-aging behind the counter, hair curled and rouge, and powder on a sweating face, taking orders in a soft low voice, calling them to the cook with a screech like a peacock, mopping a counter with circular strokes, polishing big shining coffee urns. The cook is Joe or Carl or Al, hot in a white coat or an apron, beady sweat on a white forehead. Below the white cook's cap, moody, rarely speaking, looking up for a moment at each new entry, wiping the griddle, slapping down the hamburger. He repeats May's order gently, scrapes the griddle, wipes it down with burlap. Moody and silent. May is the contact, smiling, irritated, near to outbreak, smiling while her eyes look on past, unless for truck drivers. There's the backbone of the joint. Where the trucks stop, that's where the customers come. Can't fool truck drivers, they know. They bring the customer, they know. Give 'em a stale cup of coffee, and they're off the joint. Treat 'em right, and they come back. May really smiles with all her might at truck drivers. She bridles a little, fixes her back hair so that her breasts will lift with her raised arms, passes the time of the day, and indicates great things, great times, great jokes. Al never speaks. He is no contact. Sometimes he smiles a little at a joke, but he never laughs. Sometimes he looks up at the vivaciousness in May's voice, and then he scrapes the griddle with a spatula, scrapes the grease into an iron trough around the plate. He presses down a hissing hamburger with his spatula. He lays the split buns on the plate to toast them and heat. He gathers up stray onions from the plate and heaps them on the meat and presses them in with the spatula. He puts half the bun on top of the meat, paints the other half with melted butter with a thin pickle relish. Holding the bun on the meat, he slips the spatula under the thin pad of meat, flips it over, lays the butter half on top, and drops the hamburger on a small plate. Quarter of a dill pickle, 2 black olives beside the sandwich. Al skims the plate down the counter like a koi, and he scrapes his griddle with the spatula and looks moodily at the stew kettle. Cars whisking by on 66, license plates. Massachusetts, Tennessee, Rhode Island, New York, Vermont, Ohio. Going west. Fine cars, cruising at 65. There goes one of them cords. Looks like a coffin on wheels. But Jesus, how do they travel? See that La Salle? Me for that. I ain't a hog. I go for a La Salle. If you going big, what's the matter with a cat? Just a little bigger, a little faster. I'd take a Zephyr myself. You ain't riding no fortune, but you got class and speed. Give me a Zephyr. Well, sir, you may get a laugh out of this. I'll take the Buick Puke. That's good enough. But hell, that costs in the Zephyr class, and it ain't got the sap. I don't care. I don't want nothing to do with nothing of Henry Ford's. I don't like him. Never did. Got a brother who worked in the plant. Ought to hear him tell. Well, a Zephyr got sap. The big cars on the highway. Languid, heat-rattled ladies. Small nucleuses about whom revolve 1,000 accoutrements. Creams, ointments to grease themselves, coloring matter in phials, black, pink, red, white, green, silver, to change the color of hair, eyes, lips, nails, brows, lashes, lids, oils, seeds, and pills to make the bowels move. A bag of bottles, syringes, pills, powders, fluids, jellies, to make their sexual intercourse safe, odorless, and unproductive. And this apart from clothes. What a hell of a nuisance. Lines of weariness around the eyes, lines of discontent down from the mouth, breasts lying heavily in little hammocks, stomach and thighs straining against the cases of rubber, and the mouths panting, the eyes sullen, disliking sun and wind and earth, resenting food and weariness, hating time that rarely makes them beautiful and always makes them old. Beside them, little pot-bellied men in light suits and Panama hats, clean, pink men with puzzled, worried eyes, with restless eyes, worried because formulas do not work out, hungry for security, and yet sensing its disappearance from the earth. In their lapels, the insignia of lodges and service clubs, places where they can go, and by a weight of numbers of little worried men, reassure themselves that business is noble and not the curious ritualized thievery they know it is. That businessmen are intelligent in spite of the records of their stupidity, that they are kind and charitable in spite of the principles of sound business, that their lives are rich instead of the thin, tiresome routines they know, and that a time is coming when they will not be afraid anymore. And these two, going to California, going to sit in the lobby of the Beverly Wilshire Hotel and watch people they envy go by to look at mountains, mind you, and great trees. He with his worried eyes, and she'll be thinking, and she thinking how the sun will dry her skin, going to look at the Pacific Ocean, and I'll bet $100,000 to nothing at all. He will say, it isn't as big as I thought it would be, and she will envy plump young bodies on the beach, going to California really to go home again, to say, so-and-so was at the table next to us in Trocadero. She's really a mess, but she does wear nice clothes, and I talk to good sound businessmen out there. They don't see a chance till we get rid of that fellow in the White House. And I got it from a man in the know. She has syphilis, you know. She was in that Warner picture. Man says she slept her way through into pictures. Well, she got what she was looking for. But the worried eyes are never calm, and the pounding mouth is never glad. The big car cruising along at 60. I want a cold drink. Well, there's something up ahead. Want to stop? Do you think it would be clean? Clean as you're going to find in this godforsaken country. Well, maybe the bottled soda will be all right. The great car squeals and pulls to a stop. The fat worried man helps his wife out. May looks at and past them as they enter. Al looks up from his griddle and down again. May knows. They'll drink a 5-cent soda and crab that it ain't cold enough. The woman will use 6 paper napkins and drop them on the floor. The man will choke and try to put the blame on May. The woman will sniff as though she had smelled rotting meat, and they will go out again and tell forever afterward that the people in the West are sullen. And May, when she is alone with Al, has a name for them. She calls them shit heels. Truck drivers, that's the stuff. Here comes a big transport coming. Hope they stop. Take away the taste of them shit heels. When I worked at that hotel in Albuquerque, Al, the way they steal every darn thing, and the bigger the car they got, the more they steal. Towels, silver, soap dishes. I can't figure it. And Al, morosely, where you think they got them big cars and stuff? Born with them? You won't never have nothing. The transport truck, a driver and relief. How about stopping for a cup of java? I know this dump. How's the schedule? Oh, we're ahead. Pull up then. There's an old war horse in here that's kicked. Good java too. The truck pulls up. Two men in khaki, riding trousers, boots, short jackets, and shiny visored military cap. Screen door, slam. Hi, May. Well, if it ain't Big Bill the Rat. When'd you get back on this run? Week ago. The other man puts a nickel in the phonograph, watches the disc slip free, and the turntable rise up under it. Bing Crosby's voice, golden. Thanks for the memory of sunburn at the shore. You might have been a headache, but you were never a bore. And the truck driver sings for May's airs. You might have been a haddock, but if you was never a whore. May laughs. Who's your friend, Bill? New on this run, ain't he? The other puts a nickel in the slot machine, wins 4 slugs, and puts them back. Walks over to the counter. Well, what's it gonna be? Oh, a cup of java. Kind of pie you got? Banana cream, pineapple cream, chocolate cream, and apple. Make it apple. Wait. Kind is this big, thick one? May lifts it out and sniffs it. Banana cream. Cut off a hunk, make a big hunk. Man at the slot machine says, 2 all around. 2 it is. Seen any new etchings lately, Bill? Well, here's one. Now you be careful in front of a lady. Oh, this ain't bad. Little kid comes in late to school. Teacher says, why you late? Kid says, had to take a heifer down and get her bred. Teacher says, couldn't your old man do it? Kid says, sure he could, but not as good as the bull. May squeaks with laughter, harsh screeching laughter. Al, slicing onion carefully on a board, looks up and smiles, and then looks down again. Truck drivers, that's the stuff. Gonna leave a quarter each for May. 15 cents for a pie and coffee, and a dime for May. And they ain't trying to make her, neither. Sitting together onto the stools, spoons sticking up out of the coffee mugs, passing the time of day. And Al, rubbing down his griddle, listening but making no comment. Bing Crosby's voice stops. The turntable drops down, and the record swings into its place in the pile. The purple light goes off. The nickel, which had caused all this mechanism to work, had caused Crosby to sing and an orchestra to play. This nickel drops from between the contact points into the box, where the profits go. The nickel, unlike most money, has actually done a job of work, has been physically responsible for a reaction. Steam spurts from the valve of the coffee urn. The compressor of the ice machine chugs slothfully for a time, and then stops. The electric fan in the corner waves its head, slowly back and forth, sweeping the room with a warm breeze. On the highway, 66, the cars whizzed by. There was a Massachusetts car stopped a while ago. Big Bill grasped his cup around the top so that the spoon stuck up between his first and second fingers. He drew in a snort of air with the coffee to cool it. You ought to be out on 66. Cars from all over the country, all heading west. Never seen so many before. Sure some honeys on the road. We seen a wreck this morning, his companion said. Big car, big cat, a special job, and a honey, low, cream color, special job. Hit a truck. Folded the radiator right back into the truck. Must have been doing 90. Steering wheel went right on through the guy and let him a wiggling like a frog on a hook. Peach of a car. A honey. You can have her for the peanuts now. Driving alone, the guy was. Al looked up from his work. Heard the truck? Oh, Jesus, wasn't a truck. One of them cut-down cars, full of stoves and pans and mattresses and kids and chickens. Going west, you know. This guy come by us doing 90, ran up on two wheels just to pass us, and a car coming. So he cuts in and wangs this here truck. Drove like he's blind drunk. Jesus, the air was full of bed, clothes, and chickens and kids. Killed one kid. Never seen such a mess. We pulled up. Old man that's driving the truck. He's just standing there, looking at the dead kid. Can't get a word out of him. Just rum dum. God almighty, the road is full of them families going west. Never seen so many. Gets worse all the time. Wonder where the hell they all come from. Wonder where they all go, said May. Come here for gas sometimes, but they don't hardly never buy nothing else. People says they steal. We ain't got nothing laying around. They never stole nothing from us. Big Bill, munching his pie, looked up the road through the screen window. Better tie your stuff down. I think you got some of them coming now. A 1926 Nash sedan pulled warily off the highway. The back seat was piled nearly to the ceiling with sacks, with pots and pans, and on the very top, right against the ceiling, two boys rode. On top of the car, a mattress and a folded tent poles tied along the running board. The car pulled up to the gas pump. A dark-haired, hatchet-faced man slowly got out, and the two boys slid down from the load and hit the ground. May walked around the counter and stood in the door. The man was dressed in gray wool trousers and a blue shirt, dark blue with sweat on the back and under his arms. The boys in overalls and nothing else, ragged patched overalls. Their hair was light and it stood up evenly all over their head, where it had been roached. Their faces were streaked with dust. They went directly to the mud puddle under the hose and dug their toes in the mud. The man asked, "Can we get some water, ma'am?" A look of annoyance crossed May's face. "Sure, go ahead," she said softly over her shoulder. "I'll keep my eye on the hose." She watched while the man slowly unscrewed the radiator cap and ran the hose in. A woman in the car, flaxen-haired woman, said, "See if you can't get it here." The man turned off the hose and screwed on the cap again. The little boys took the hose from him, and they upended it and drank thirstily. The man took off his dark-stained hat and stood with a curious humility in front of the screen. "Could you see your way to sell us a loaf of bread, ma'am?" May said, "This ain't a grocery store. We got bread to make sandwiches." "I know, ma'am." His humility was insistent. "We need bread, and there ain't nothing for quite a piece, they say. If we sell bread, we're going to run out." May's tone was faltering. "We're hungry," the man said. "Why don't you buy a sandwich? We got nice sandwiches, hamburgs." "We'd sure admire to do that, ma'am, but we can't. We got to make a dime do, all of us." And he said embarrassedly, "We ain't got but a little." May said, "You can't get no loaf of bread for a dime. We only got 15-cent loaves." From behind her, Al growled, "God almighty, May, give 'em bread. We'll run out for the bread truck arrives." "Run out, then, God damn it," said Al, and he looked sullenly down at the potato salad he was mixing. May shrugged her plump shoulders and looked to the truck drivers to show them what she was up against. She held the screen door open, and the man came in, bringing a smell of sweat with him. The boys edged in behind him, and they went immediately to the candy case and stared in, not with craving or with hope or even with desire, but just with a kind of wonder that such things could be. They were alike in size, and their faces were alike. One scratched his dusty ankle with the toenail of his other foot. The other whispered some soft message, and then they straightened their arms, so that their clenched fists in the overall pocket showed through the thin blue cloth. May opened a drawer and took out a long wax paper wrapped loaf. "This here is a 15-cent loaf." The man put his hat back on. He answered with inflexible humility, "Can't you see your way to cut off 10 cents worth?" Al said snarlingly, "God damn it, May, give him the loaf." The man turned towards Al. No, we want to buy 10 cents worth of it. We got it figured awful close, mister, to get to California. May said resignedly. You can have this for 10 cents. That'd be robbing you, ma'am. Go ahead. Al says to take it. She pushed the wax-papered loaf across the counter. The man took a deep leather pouch from his rear pocket, untied the strings, and spread it open. It was heavy with silver and with greasy bills. May sound funny to be so tight, he apologized. We got 1,000 miles to go, and we don't know if we'll make it. He dug in his pouch with a forefinger, located a dime, and pinched in for it. When he pulled it down on the counter, he had a penny with it. He was about to drop the penny back in the pouch when his eyes fell on the boys frozen before the candy counter. He moved slowly down with them. He pointed out of the case at big, long sticks of striped peppermint. Is them penny candy, ma'am? May moved down and looked in. Which ones? There, them stripy ones. The little boys raised their eyes to her face, and they stopped breathing. Their mouths were partly open. Their half-naked bodies were rigid. Oh, them? Well, no, them's 2 for a penny. Well, give me 2 then, ma'am. He placed the copper cent carefully on the counter. The boys expelled their held breath softly. May held the big sticks out. Take 'em, said the man. They reached timidly, and each took a stick, and they held them down at their sides, and did not look at them. They looked at each other, and their mouths' corners smiled rigidly with embarrassment. Thank you, ma'am. The man picked up the bread and went out the door, and the little boys marched stiffly behind them. The red-striped sticks held tightly against their legs. They leaped like chipmunks over from the front seat and onto the top of the load, and they burrowed back out of sight like chipmunks. The man got in and started his car, and with roaring motor and a cloud of blue oily smoke from the ancient ash, climbed up on the highway and went on its way west. From inside the restaurant, the truck drivers and May and Al stared after them. Big Bill wheeled back. Them wasn't a 2 for a cent candy, he said. What's that to you? May said fiercely. Them was a nickel apiece candy. We gotta get going, said the other man. We're dropping time. They reached in their pockets. Bill put a coin on the counter, and the other man looked at it and reached in and put down a coin. They swung around and walked to the door. So long, said Bill. May called, Hey, wait a minute, you got change. You go to hell, said Bill, and the screen door slammed. May watched them get into the great truck, watched it lumber off in low gear, and heard the shift up the whining gears to a cruising ratio. Ow, she said softly. He looked up from the hamburger he was patting thin and stacking between wax papers. What you want? Look there. She pointed to the coins beside the cups. 2 half-dollars. Al walked near and looked, and then he went back to work. Truck drivers, May said reverently, and after them shit heels. Flies struck the screen with little bumps and droned away. The compressor chugged for a time, and then stopped. On the 66th, the traffic whizzed by, trucks and fine streamlined cars and jalopies, and they went by with a vicious whiz. May took down the plates and scraped the pie crust into a bucket. She found her damp cloth and wiped the counter with circular sweeps, and her eyes were on the highway, where life whizzed by. Al wiped his hands on his apron. He looked at a paper pinned to the wall over the griddle. 3 lines of marks and columns on the paper. Al counted the longest line. He walked along the counter to the cash register, rang, no sale, and took out a handful of nickels. What you doing? Number 3's ready to pay off, said Al. He went to the 3rd slot machine and played his nickels in, and on the 5th spin of the wheels, where the 3 bars came up and a jackpot dumped out into the cup. Al gathered the big handful of coins and went to the back counter. He dropped them in the drawer and slammed the cash register. Then he went back to his place and crossed out the line of dots. Number 3 gets more in play than others, he said. Maybe I ought to shift them around. He lifted a lid and stirred the slowly simmering stew. I wonder what they'll do in California. Who? Them folks that was just in. Christ knows. Suppose they'll get work? How the hell would I know? She stared eastward along the highway. Here comes a transport, double. Wonder if they'll stop? Hope they do. And as the huge truck came heavily down from the highway and parked, May seized her cloth and wiped the whole length of the counter. And she took a few swipes at the gleaming coffee urn too, and turned the bottled gas under the urn. Al brought out a handful of little turnips and started to peel them. May's face was gay when the door opened and two uniformed truck drivers entered. "Hi, sister." "I won't be a sister to no man," said May. They laughed, and May laughed. "What'll it be, boys?" "Oh, a cup of Java. What kind of pie you got?" "Pineapple cream and banana cream and chocolate cream and apple." "Give me apple. No, wait. What's that big thick one?" May picked up the pie and smelled it. "Pineapple cream," she said. "Well, chop out a hunk of that." The cars whizzed viciously on the 66.